when you have a naive optimism, you feel like you can do anything. Everyone's dream is to become a millionaire, but when you get there, you're like, okay, now what? Now what? Yeah. And it's like, well, that guy's got the yacht. I want the yacht now, and I want the 100 million.
Hi guys, welcome back to the podcast Like Father, Like Son, and today we've got some really great authors from a book called The Unfair Advantage. Now unfortunately I've got the later book. I really wanted the black one, the limited edition one, but you know, you got to take what you can, and it's an absolutely brilliant read.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us on.
So what we're really interested in, the first question we wanted to ask is, do you believe anyone can be successful?
Ooh. You went in with a deep one straight away.
Yeah.
Well, you've got to go deep, haven't you?
Absolutely. Okay, so this actually reminds me of your chat about the unfair advantage, which is how do you define success? And I think everybody needs to define it for themselves, and that's something we get into in the book.
Yeah.
Is you have to define success for yourself rather than just based on, like, I don't know, what society tells you success is or what the symbols of success are. And I think that everybody could find their own level of success, definitely, and that's a lot higher than most people imagine. But not everybody can be, I don't know, Elon Musk or whatever. That's just nonsense. That's
so
not true.
the monetary way of that most people gauge success, I mean, I don't like that as a gauge. So I'm assuming that's what you're saying with that. It's not all about the monetary gauge.
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah,
Okay.
no, because we all know it, right? We've all heard it. That it's not going to make you happy.
No.
What was that quote I read recently? It was like, money will make a poor man happy, but not a rich man happy. And it's like, yeah, and rich is quite subjective and quite relative, and you figure out quite quickly actually it levels off, and the level of happiness you get from it, you start to get other problems, and problems don't stop in life. You know, you just get more quality problems.
Yeah.
And that's
What do you find that level is of income that doesn't make you any happier when you reach it?
I mean, the studies do say something around, I think, 70 grand.
Yeah.
I would 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
I think about 70 grand, you can have pretty much everything everyone else has or wants. You know, you can have a car, okay, you can't buy a Rolls Royce. You can go on holiday, you can't fly first class, but you can go pretty much to the same place, and you can experience pretty much everything everyone else can. Obviously with more money you can do it to a higher level, but certainly we think about 70 grand a year will give you that sort of lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know, if you can get to 100, then you can do it just a little bit better perhaps, you know. So it's not all about the money, that's for sure.
I suppose it fixes those money issues, and then you've got the other issues that everyone has on top of those.
Exactly.
So you can fix those. But we're really excited to talk to you guys because we're actually in the process of writing a book. Well, we haven't actually started writing it yet.
We haven't
but
started, guys. So don't put your orders in yet.
We've signed the book deal.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it's
Congratulations.
exciting.
Congrats.
Yeah, so we was wondering, how did you get started with writing your book, and what was the process behind that?
Really hard.
Did you always know?
Us?
Yeah, did you always know you were going to write a book, or did it just sort of come, bam, we're going to write a book?
So we spent a lot of time speaking on stages about the concept of the book. And then people at the end of the stage, end of the day, will come up to us and say, "Where can I buy your book?" We're like, "What book?" The stuff you talk about is very interesting.
So you knew there was a demand there for the book.
Yeah. So one of the things we did is we went on all these multiple stages to speak conferences, startup events, and our book is specifically for entrepreneurs. So any of the... What's important is that when you're writing a book or writing anything, you need to have the people who want to listen to you be the ones who tell you that you should create something for them.
Okay.
Which is really important, because I think when you're writing a book, it's so wide and so far, and it could become a kind of like a personal, egotistical project sometimes.
Yeah, you can try and cover too many people, really, and then no one's interested.
Yeah.
Perhaps you've got to narrow it down a
You've
little
got
bit.
to narrow it down to your audience and what value do they get out of that
Yeah.
content.
That's
So
what we try and do with the YouTube channel. It's actually
Yeah.
creating valuable content rather than selfish content just for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to say, because people often don't even think about the audience. Like I work with a lot of aspiring authors, people working on their stuff now. Now this is something that I really have fun doing, actually. And actually the biggest mistake is people just want to share their story, which is fine, but you just bear in mind that's coming from a self-indulgent place. And you have to understand that that's fine. You can indulge yourself and create content wherever you want. That's totally fine. But if you want it to do well, if you want people to really get a lot out of it, you have to think about how they're going to receive it. And actually, we use a lot of the kind of startup principles to put that into place of, like, what is the customer journey, or in this case, the reader journey or the user journey, and what are they going to experience and how they're going to come across it, and what problems or obstacles or objections would they have to it, and how can you address them throughout the book. And you guys do that really well with your content, and so it's the same kind of principles,
Just
right?
trying to make it into the book format. So you talked about story a bit there. What's your guys' stories? Yeah, we can start with either one of you.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, thinking about writing the book, the first thing that came in my mind was I actually failed my GCSE English.
Okay.
And I was like, I can't write a book.
Well, that's a similar concept to where I'm coming from. I mean, what did I have? CSEs, Certificate of Secondary Education, and it wasn't very high.
Yeah.
So writing a book is like quite a minefield, really. And we were talking about the personal bits in it, weren't we? Saying, well, we can't do an indulgent thing. It's got to be like our normal stuff. So coming from a similar place then.
Yeah, absolutely. And then working with Hassan has one of the things I found in my life is that there's lots of things we could achieve and have success in, but sometimes we can't do it alone. It's better together.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of my startups and a lot of my projects, including the book, has been in partnership with Hassan, for example, because I know where my strengths are, where my weaknesses are as well, and that's really important. So in terms of my background, I was born and bred in the inner city of Birmingham.
Okay.
Part of 4 siblings. My mom was a housewife and my dad was working at the local factory. And typical Asian parents, all about education.
Yeah.
Education. Either you're a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, or a failure.
Yeah. I've heard that a few times.
And I was one of those. Yeah, and I was supposedly the failure. You know, I dropped out of college at the age of 18 twice. I didn't really get on. I did my GCSEs and didn't really get on well with my A-levels. I chose random A-levels, science-based A-levels, pushed into it, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I dropped out and I started working at a local stationery store called Staples in the time, which used to exist, big shed. But I was there. I got myself a computer with a 56k modem. I upset my dad because I engaged the telephone line forever, because that's what happened in those days. You plugged it into the
Is it the one that made that horrible noise?
It was horrible, wasn't it?
So literally, it's going that far back, right? It's going so far back into the early days. And I started to build websites, started to learn how to build websites. And one thing I noticed is that a lot of success that people have, they've learned a lot of things in the earlier days, whether it's writing, whether it's making a website, whether it's doing something like an expertise in something that later comes in life where it's amplified. And you don't talk about it then, but you realize that's part of actually your success as well.
It's almost like you've stacked those skills on top of each other.
Absolutely.
Well, Curtis isn't going to say it, but I mean, he's been doing YouTube since he was about 7 or 8. Whoa. So, you know,
making videos.
That's stacking that expertise, isn't it? By the time you get to 16, 17, 18, you've got a lot of knowledge at that point.
You don't even realise sometimes what you're learning until it all comes together.
Absolutely.
And it all,
absolutely
works out. So at what point did your parents actually think, oh, actually, you're doing very well for yourself?
So I won an award for my website that I built in Birmingham at the age of 19, and then I moved to London with a rucksack and no belongings, no laptop in those days. I had a standard desktop, and I got myself a job at an agency who saw the website and said, hey, you did really well. Why don't you come and work for us? Have no connections, no one in London. I came into took a train ticket, Virgin train into London, went for the job interview. They gave me the job on the spot. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Went to the telephone box, phoned my friend and said, hey, they offered me a job. Should I move? And he just said, yes. And I said, okay. Put the phone down. And I literally moved the week after. And I forgot to realize that actually I needed a place to stay. So when I got there, I was like, I haven't got anywhere to stay. I forgot. So they put me up in not an Airbnb, a bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
And I started my life with no money, no connections, 19 years old, in a bed and breakfast in London working for an agency.
But you've put yourself out there, haven't you? You've taken that risk, and we quite often say not taking any risks is the biggest risk. You've got to take a risk to be able to advance yourself. If you don't, well, you're just going to stay where you are, aren't you, or go backwards. So
yeah, and it's very easy to go into comfort.
Yes.
So it's very easy. I think growth only really happens when you have a little bit of discomfort. So I had some discomfort. I didn't know how the tubes worked. I mean, I know it sounds really silly, but I didn't know how it worked.
Yeah.
I didn't know how the underground worked, and I'm come from Birmingham, which is
but then you're learning, aren't you, if you're experiencing that discomfort.
And if you've never been on it, I mean, it is complicated, isn't it? You look at it and you go, what are all these lights?
Yeah.
You usually show me where to go, don't you?
We're there, and you go, how did that happen?
So when you're in that situation, coming back to the book, what do you feel like your unfair advantage was?
So I think we talk about unfair advantages of having and not having, right? And in my life, I think, and Hassan will talk about his unfair advantages. We developed this thing called the Miles framework.
Yeah.
And in the Miles framework, we talk about certain areas where you can find your unfair advantages. And there's a lot of them, and they can compound as well. They can sit on top of each other. So, for example, I've been known as a growth hacker. I've been in marketing. I like to build businesses by bootstrapping them. But that mindset came from the fact that I had lack of money in my life. Not because I had money.
Well, we're going to come on to the Miles framework because obviously that's a really big part of the book, and that's what hit both me and Curtis quite hard. So let's see where you started from as well.
Yeah, I just want to add to Ash's story because we found this out after the book, and so we didn't put it in. But he grew up where Peaky Blinders is set.
Oh, really?
He grew up in Small Heath. It was like really.
So did you have the cap and everything?
Do you? Wow.
No, did you?
I have people who come with me to Birmingham and said, Ash, can you show me where Green Lane is? I said, oh my God, Green Lane. That's just there. It's the most inner city place ever. And I was like, this is the pub and this is the place. And I didn't know until someone mentioned it. And guess who mentioned it? A friend in America.
Really?
Yeah,
it's big out there.
It's big in America.
Yeah.
Well, they love gangstery type things, don't they? And really, it's English gangster, isn't it?
Because people were like, "Oh, you're exaggerating about how rough his upbringing was," and it's like he literally had a shotgun murder across the street from him. It was like, what? The house was all boarded up.
Yeah. There was a lot of crime in the inner city where we came from. And so
I don't think people realise quite what the inner cities were like back then, because I used to, let's say at 18, 19 when I first drove, coming back through, we talked about the Dartford, not the Dartford tunnel because it wasn't there, but the Blackwall tunnel, and you start going around the inner city areas there, they were as rough can be. I mean, they were filthy, dirty, horrible, so degenerated, it was unbelievable. And it's not really there anymore, not to the same extent, I don't think. So it's quite amazing how things have changed, you know, and brought themselves up. Because I think, London in particular is a wonderful place, and particularly where they've had the Olympics now. That area was awful before they redeveloped it. So, it's quite amazing how bad it was.
And there are still places like that. I mean, I know the government recently have been talking about levelling up, right, and the north-south divide. But, people talk about it. But there is that north-south divide. I do see that. I can experience that with the children that I meet there, the mindset, the opportunities. It does change.
It's quite amazing. So anyway, let's carry on that story.
So we go from like inner city Birmingham to inner city Baghdad, which is where I was born.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was born at the end of the Iran-Iraq war, and then I lived through, when I was like 3 years old, the Gulf War. And as soon as that was over, my family were able to come here to London.
How is that as a youngster? Because obviously they say youngsters don't really see it, or it's just normal day to day, because that's what happens. But it's quite interesting.
Yeah, no, I don't remember it really, to be honest with you. I remember when we kind of moved. So it was like we came to UK. We were able to just get a visa and everything. I think coming from kind of a middle class family in Baghdad, and kind of we were all right, and we were lucky enough to be able to just get out as soon as the travel opened up. My dad was like, okay, we're getting out of here. So I grew up kind of poor in London, kind of state school, on free school meals and that kind of thing. I think my mum was like to me, why did you put that in the book? I was like, because it's true. she was a bit like, why
don't embarrass me,
don't embarrass me. Why? I kind of grew up in that kind of environment, but again, very academic. My parents kind of went master's degrees and stuff like that, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be a doctor. That was kind of imposed on me. I think I joke in the book about my first birthday, I had a doctor cake, which I think my granddad got for me, and it was a kind of a tongue-in-cheek, like, he'll grow up and be a doctor. And I kind of just dropped out.
You're forced down that path before you even know it.
Before I even know it. So it must have been a subconscious thing, because actually they're not forceful at all. They're lovely, my parents. I just dropped out of that. I was kind of going down the path to becoming a doctor, and then I just dropped out of university, and I thought I want to do something different.
And what do you think of the university situation? Because obviously we sort of skirt around it from time to time, and my views are definitely not anti-university. 100% definitely not, although some people think they are. But I do think maybe 50% of people that go probably shouldn't, to be perfectly honest. Where do you sit on university?
I think most degrees are probably a scam. Most.
It's a big money machine, isn't it?
But I think a lot of the value comes from STEM subjects. So if we're talking about the content of what you learn, I think most of the value comes from like STEM subjects and vocational degrees where you actually going to end up with a career out of it.
Yeah.
Everything else is more about like, so we talk about 3 benefits to education. Number 1 is the content itself, if that's any good. Number 2, and usually the best content is the stuff you learn yourself, especially these days. Number 2 is more for the network. It's who you meet there.
Yeah.
So the top unis, the best thing about it is you can meet people who become your future business partners, who become like investors, who become like, that's the best thing about being in prestigious schools. And talking about prestigious schools, the third thing is signaling. So it's having that piece of paper, it's being able to have that in your LinkedIn, or talking about how you're a Oxford dropout or Oxford graduate starts this startup or something like that. And it's usually that side. You can attract investors more easily. You're more well connected in that space. The values of education come, or let's say higher education, not education in general. We're huge on education, but I think it mostly comes from that. But also that is a lot. Like those 3 different things you can get quite a lot out of that. So I think you have to kind of judge it for itself on its own merits of, because here in the UK, we do have that snobbish thing of, that's a former polytechnic or that's a whatever. It does matter where you go. So yeah, we have that nuanced take. I know academia really wasn't for Ash. I was kind of more from the academic path, but I just did an undergrad degree and thought that's enough for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really depends. But I see the benefits and I see how in hiring, and especially when you become like recruit people, you see how it's a shortcut to be able to be like, they've done some filtering for me. So if I hire somebody from a top university, I know they'll have their stuff together. They'll kind of be on track with things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I thought about going to university for filmmaking, because you can meet like with the connections, like you were saying. But then, I just thought maybe going out there in the field and learning as I go, I'd still meet those connections and I wouldn't be in so much debt. So it's interesting you say about those 3 different
and for some
levels.
For some it's very hard to get an ROI on that investment, isn't it? I mean, it's a lot of money, and if you're just going because you don't know what you want to do with your life, then it can I think it can be a bit of a hindrance. And the thing that sort of hits me quite hard is that if you take 50% of people that go, I think they would be successful anyway, and it could actually be detrimental to them, and it's then to beat out that entrepreneurial spirit a little bit on that journey through university. It's sort of like, right, we'll pigeonhole you there, but before they went, they were a bit of a free spirit and they could have done their own thing a little bit more. So it does sort of, I have niggles with it. That's the best way to put it in there.
It's almost like if you don't know what you're meant to do, then you can think out the box a bit more with business.
You're absolutely right, but I actually think it starts off from nursery.
Really?
The whole education system needs an overhaul. I see my daughter growing up and going to schools and thinking about how creativity is actually knocked out of them.
Yeah.
And the whole education system needs an overhaul.
So how do you think it knocks it out of them?
Because it's become so much more test driven and grade driven, and it's not about what they enjoy, it's about what they have to do. And I think that kind of format of curriculum, the teachers are stuck with a curriculum that's given by the government, but actually the free flow curriculum is a better way of doing it. And we've seen schools in Europe and the Netherlands and lots of other places where the schooling system is slightly different and the kids are growing up in a different way. And I think that makes a massive difference, because a lot of childhood elements of curiosity and creativity start in childhood, and that's the key thing you need as an entrepreneur as well, to maintain that curiosity when it comes to education generally.
So do you think the solution there is to let them pick their subjects?
Yeah, I think they should double down on things that they actually like.
100%. I enjoyed a lot of subjects at school, but if you said, did you enjoy school, I have to say not really, because there wasn't enough of what I enjoyed there, and if I could have, and I tried to actually, I took computer studies, and computer studies back then was about what Babbage did back in his day, and how cards with holes in worked computers, and it had gone beyond that, way beyond that, even at that stage, and you were learning history really, not computer studies. And I wanted to opt out into, because I couldn't pick physics, which I really wanted to do and was really good at, and I enjoyed it,
so why couldn't you pick it?
Because of the way your options fall, and you couldn't have, if you picked one, that blocked you out from another. There was no way to do it, which was really quite disappointing, really. Because if you enjoy a subject, I think you learn it well. Talking of history, I had no interest in that at school whatsoever, and now I love it. So you can learn it later on, can't you? And the educational side of the human being doesn't stop unless you want it to stop.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're always open to new things, then it's great, isn't it? You know, we've just been to Antigua, as we mentioned. We did a podcast out there, which should be up. Hope you enjoy it. And we, you know, as soon as we got back, I was learning more and more about the history of the island as well, which is, it's really deep, very
You kept coming out with different facts, didn't you, about the sugar?
Yeah, but it's very, very enjoyable to learn that at my age now, and I would have said from about 40 on, but at school, I wasn't interested. And if you think I was interested in model aeroplanes and Spitfires and Hurricanes, how good could they have made learning about World War II at school for me, and World War One? They just had to come in at a different angle. I would have loved it, but they don't. They go, bump, 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 this is how you learn it.
This is what you need for the test. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of pressure as well, and that's something that Ash, when he tells me about, because he grew up with a normal school and everything, but he's able to put his daughter through private school and give her that advantage. But then the pressure that they put them under, right? And it's pressure only, and life doesn't give you pressure just on one dimension, like just your grades. And it's like the pressure on, it's just so much pressure, and then they're growing up and going through a lot as well. And I think it's absolutely, and I'm the same with you. I got interested in history as I got older. I was like, I listened to history podcasts and stuff. I'm like, oh, this is great. This is really
it's amazing,
cool.
Isn't it? Really?
It's when you get the curiosity about it. And I was doing the same when I was traveling in Indonesia. I started to like listen to podcasts about Indonesian history and reading the Wikipedia page and stuff. And this is fascinating. What the Dutch have done, what's happened here, and like, it's all interesting things.
Exactly. I mean, I was lucky enough to be obviously able to educate Curtis privately, and I think the school he went to till he was 16 was very much involved with making a rounded individual, not a round.
It's less about the grades and more about what you like.
That's good.
Yeah,
which I liked,
it was very good. And then you got a scholarship to a swimming school as well, which was quite good, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I was very into my sports. So I went up to Ellesmere, which is in Wales, to study there, and that was quite good as well. But I'd say that was more grade focused than the first school I went to. So I completely see where you're coming from with the whole picking where you want to go.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And fascinating that you went through the sports channel, because you doubled down on something that you liked, right?
Yeah.
You didn't just focus on your grade; you focused on the other sides of talent as well, where everyone has them. I think it's a funny thing, school and education, because at a very early age, people around young people start asking them, "So, what do you want to be when you're older?" And you know, like if you like my daughter, who wants to experiment and try different things, she doesn't really know. But her friends are like, I want to be a neurosurgeon, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer. And already they're thinking about these things, and they're trying to pigeonhole themselves into this route. And we don't know the job titles that exist now are going to change in 20 years' time. They're going to be completely different. When I went into the world of work, I had a job title called the head of new media. New media. I mean, basically, I was in charge of the internet stuff.
Yeah, everything we don't understand, you can look after that.
Right. But now you got so many new job titles that don't even exist. Our kids are growing up in an era where job titles don't even exist now. So you can't say you want to be something that doesn't exist yet. You know, you got machine learning, AI, all these new things coming out. And I think we pigeonhole our children into trying to think of careers and what they want to do too early, and not giving them enough scope to explore themselves as individuals and find out what their true talents are and double down on those.
So do you think the focus should be on that skill stacking from an early age rather than what I want to be? Because then those skills might come in handy with a new job that comes up.
Yeah, absolutely. And in this digital age that we live in, the skill sets are very different to what we need before, right? I mean, we've hired a couple of young staff in one of my startups, and they don't like picking the phone up to talk.
No, I've got that problem with some of my staff. They're afraid.
Yeah.
They're afraid of someone saying hello to them.
Because it's all texting now, I guess.
It is strange, really, really strange. And to try and get them even to read off script to get their conversation going, even that is hard. It's surprising. I'm surprised. I'm glad you brought that up, because it is something we've struggled with recently. So
and it's a skill set thing, and it's a communication channel and the way people work. And you know, I was talking to my co-founder today about some of our clients, and he said, I found an anomaly in how we achieve success with some of our clients. I go, what is it? He goes, the ones I've got on my WhatsApp, they convert much faster than ones I don't have on WhatsApp.
Really?
I was like, okay, that's new. I wouldn't expect that, you know? And then I'm the face-to-face type of person. I like to meet people face-to-face, have the energy.
That's why we like doing the podcast in person as well. It's just so much better.
Absolutely, which is why when Hassan mentioned it, I said, we should do it in person, because we've not had that since COVID, and get the energy and the authenticity there. But there's different skills now I think we need to build on. Even knowing how to answer a WhatsApp message in a professional way versus writing an email. I say this to Hassan, actually. I know when someone is junior and they send me an email versus when someone's senior and they send me an email.
Yeah.
And I went to my when we were doing a rounds of looking at schools for my daughter, and I went to the English section of the school department, and I said to the head of English, "Oh, yeah, you nice books and poems and Shakespeare. Do you teach them how to write an email?"
And they went, huh?
Are they not?
They're like, "What are you on about? We read these books, we've got this poems, we've got this thing, we do the essays. But do you actually teach them how to write an email?" And when my daughter opened the first Gmail account, she goes, "Daddy, what do I put in this box here? What to put in the subject line? What does that mean? How do I start an email?"
Yeah,
How
it's
do I
actually
end an email?
practical things they should be teaching, but they're just not.
Yeah, and she was never taught that. So I'm teaching her how to write a subject line. What does it mean? How do I write an email to a teacher? Can I write an email? Is she going to get it straight away? She didn't know any of that
Yeah.
on her first email. And those are practical skills.
Yeah,
and email
exactly.
is a form of communication we all use. No one even teaches you how to do it properly.
So what are the differences between a senior email and a junior email for the people that are listening?
I know what you're going to say, because he always has a go at me because I always sign off even on an Instagram or anything.
Yeah, but
I always
that's
put
different. That's
MT
different.
and say,
Yeah.
they know who it's coming from. It's got it in the top.
But that's not. Yeah, in an email, I see that's very important. But yeah, when it's a text message, it just doesn't make sense. I wouldn't say. But yeah, what do you think?
I think the easiest thing to weigh in know that is length, brevity. You know, length is the key thing. You know, and dear Ash, I'm writing you this email because just get to the point.
Yeah.
Just get to the point.
Yeah, concise. Yeah.
You know, and I think having that ability to write in a concise way is interesting, because I think there's a hierarchical thing you get sometimes. You know, when some junior members saying, "Ash, I know you are super busy and doing all this stuff, but actually, the reality is your email is important to me. If it's important to me, just get to the point."
Yeah. So you're already downing it before you even get to the point.
Yeah,
So
and so save me time. I'm busy.
Yeah.
Me and Hassan and you probably do as well, right? We get hundreds of emails and messages every day, and
we love them. We do love them, by the way, and we
Yeah.
do read the vast majority. But it is very difficult, and we try and answer as many as we can, don't we? But it gets harder and harder with the amount that we get. That's for sure. It's very difficult. Keep them short. You know, more likely to be able to answer.
Oh,
them
the
quickly.
worst ones are, can I ask you a question? It's
Yeah.
like, what you just
Well,
did. You could
had
have asked the question.
opportunity. Yeah, I've read it and gone, well, you could have done.
and that's an example of somebody who
Yeah.
doesn't know how to use email etiquette or messaging or understanding how to approach. And I think there you can see that in email as well. And I keep trying to teach. My co-founder in one of my businesses, he's an ex-management consultant, and his emails are like, wow.
Yeah.
And we've always had fun. And my email is literally the subject line and
Yes
two comments.
or no.
Yeah. And that's when I answer it as well.
Yeah.
And it's like, and we had a bit of a fun about that as well, right? And how we write write things. But if there's anyone who's out there listening now and they want to reach successful people and they want to get mentors and they want to work with people, keep your emails and your messages brief, because that's going to help us respond much better, because we do read everything, right? We read a lot of things. Then we need to hire people to read things, but because we're very personal with our emails and our messages that we receive, we love to get feedback from readers all over the world.
Yeah, and when it's too long, you end up skimming it, and then you could miss the important stuff. So leading with that important stuff is very important.
Yeah,
I'd
and
say.
specificity. Like if somebody asks you something specific, you're more tempted to just go, "Oh, I'll answer that specific thing," and then the trick is, and this is the trick, I even have that in the book about how to get a mentor, is to actually then feed back to the person what result you got from doing that, and then you start to feel invested in them. And you're like, oh, okay, then you should try this now.
100%. When we get messages back and people have actually taken action on the information you've given them, that gives me a massive boost to help them further.
So you're a guy that bought all of those things.
I
you
always
can tell that story.
I always refer to him, don't I? But we had a guy in Nigeria, and he said, "Look, how can I get ahead? I'm in a terrible area. I can't do anything. Money's tight. I've got $80, I think he said, didn't he, to my name. What can I do?" And I said, well, when I was younger, and England was sort of a more developing country than it is now, we used to have door-to-door salesmen that used to come around with brushes and toothpaste and toothbrushes and dusters and all that sort of thing.
Did you actually have that?
Yeah, we used to have that. And I said, look, maybe give that a go, because people need anything that someone needs and they haven't got to go and get, and they need it now. That is where you can make a difference. And he went, I'll give that a go. And he sent me a picture, and literally it was less than a week later, he said, here's my little shop. It was like an usherette sort of thing around his neck with all these different things in it, dusters and things, all the things we've just mentioned. And I said, that looks really great. How have you done? He said, this is my third lot of stock. He said, I can't believe it. I've done so well. And that it's made us all lift now, hasn't it?
Yeah.
He's made a difference.
Dad's invested in it as well, so it'll help him next time.
Yeah.
No, it's emotional, isn't it? Look, even there. That's dust, by the way. Like dust in the air. But that's the difference, isn't it? If you feel you can make a difference, then that's great, and he's doing well, which is nice. But going back to the education thing, I think that with the pigeonholing, that is a big problem. And I think what schools don't do is actually tell you that all these possibilities for you are out there. A lot of people may watch X Factor and go, I want to be the top singer or whatever. And maybe you will, maybe you won't. But there are so many things that you can be. You don't need to be pigeonholed down to one, do you? I mean, there is literally an absolute world out there. And it might not be in your country or your city or town or wherever, or even your continent. But nowadays, you can do anything, anywhere. And I think that should really be pushed harder, because what your skill set is, which we'll come on to shortly, is, somewhere that is going to be perfect. It's just going to dovetail in, isn't it, I think? So.
Yeah. One of the things they used to do at my school was they did this test that said what you were going to be when you're older. And I really hated it because I was like, well, I'm not going to let a piece of paper tell me what I'm going to be. Just because they think my skill set is along those routes. Because like you said, those jobs that maybe are going to be in the future aren't even in the test. So how's that ever going to work?
Right, so if we move on to this Miles format, it sounds like someone called Miles came up with it, but obviously this is what it stands for, and I'm going to read it off script here because I don't want to get it wrong. So Miles stands for money, intelligence, location, stroke luck, education, stroke expert, status, I'm going to put stroke confidence, and obviously can we discuss those and see why those are the things that are important?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, both me and Hassan were thinking actually it could have been called SMILE rather than just Miles as well. It's an acronym for something which we came up with. I think it's really important when you're writing a book, you need to have some kind of framework or something that can people can use very instantly and understand it. And I think that's really important when you guys are writing a book to think about that as well, rather than just stories, because stories are great, they connect in your mind, but a framework really sticks there and you can really use it. And hundreds of people have said they've used the Miles framework in coaching sessions.
Easy to remember, isn't it?
So how did it start? I mean, we were talking a lot about different things, right? We're talking about money, and we're talking about people who are intelligent, and we're talking about it from a startup perspective. Who gets funding, and every time someone sat in front of us, a new founder, when we were investing as angel investors in startups, we try to find something in them that will give them a jump start or a step ahead of the competition. Yeah, some kind of competitive advantage, and everyone had different things, right? In different areas. And then we started to look at it and go, actually, some people have got money, some people have got connections. This person's really confident and they've got a status, or they've got a community that they work with. And so Miles was this format that came out of all these different ideas, and we synthesized it into money, intelligence and insight, location and luck, education and expertise, and status. And each one of those pillars is really big. What do you want to talk about each one of the pillars?
Yeah, I was going to say, if we take money, for example, because, a lot of people say, well, I haven't got any money, so I've had it, I've got no chance. So if you want to take it from there that.
That's the classic one. So I guess that's probably why we started with it, because people think, if I don't have the money, then I can't get going, And then you can go too far. See, the thing is, we're both kind of into self-development stuff, and then they can go too far the other way and just be like, nothing matters, it's all about you. Whatever position you're in your life right now, that's because of the decisions you've made. And it's like that 100% take responsibility for your life, which is a good mindset, but you can't take it too far, because then there are things that you're not in control of. There are things due to circumstance and happenstance that just happens to you. So I think that was the key kind of underlying principle behind the whole thing, is like, there is such a thing as an unfair advantage. We don't live in a purely meritocratic world. Wish we did, but that's not how it works. So money is just that thing of like, you can just get started in a very simple way. We talk about runway or financial cushion. Like, if you want to start a business, let's say, or you want to take part in any other kind of project, you need money to live, right? And if you have dependents on you, you need to feed them. If you're married or looking after people or kids, so your runway is how long can you live without an income? Because usually when you're starting a business, you're not going to be making money straight away. There are some businesses that you can do, but usually not. And especially as a founder, you don't want to be taking too much money out. You want to reinvest it.
Yeah.
The second thing is financial cushion. Money is a financial cushion, because if you fail, then it's all right. I just fall on my cushion. Like, it's all good. And people, and that's the thing. The people that come to us for for funding, for investment, the ones who are kind of further ahead and they kind of often can kind of persist is because they have that financial cushion. They have that ability to just live with their mum and dad. I had that. I mean, I was just living, not a huge thing, but just to live with your mum and dad, which is becoming much more normal now.
Yeah, well, so I live with mum and dad, so it's just an easy way to have that cushion, I suppose.
And we recommend it, don't we? Because the longer you can stay with mum and dad, you know, the less rent and outcome you've got a secure base, and from that you can build massive amounts.
Exactly.
So I suppose that was an unfair advantage for me, so it allowed me to start my business, my videography,
it's a very common one, right?
have a place to live.
The rent's going up, by the way. now he's realised.
Yeah, that was more common here, like in Britain, to charge your kids rent. That was a more common thing, but it's kind of now houses are unaffordable and stuff, so it's kind of becoming like, okay, it's more normal now. And then the other thing is, okay, if I don't have money, the double-edged sword aspect of it is that having less money gives you creativity.
Yes,
you know?
I think so.
Yeah, it comes from, well, what's that phrase? It's necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
And if you are forced, then you really think outside the box and you go, okay, how do I get customers? How do I get clients? How do I make money without just throwing money at the problem?
And you be more protective of it as you grow it as well, I think, don't you? If you've come from very little.
Exactly. Yeah, you can understand the value of it, right? So you can really, it kind of can go both ways. It's a double-edged sword to have money, because we saw a lot of startup founders, for example, who just throw money into Facebook ads and Google ads, and it's like, because they have money to burn, so they'll burn it, you know? And it's like,
I mean, I've always hated that statement. I do use it, don't know how much money you're going to burn for the first year.
Yeah.
But I hate that. Burn money, leave it out. There's got to be a way of doing what you need to do without burning it. Yeah. Keep it and can make yourself stronger. But it's a normal thing now, isn't it? Particularly if they've got people investing in them, and well, they've invested, I can burn it. You know,
exactly. Yeah. So neither Ash nor I kind of grew up with a lot of money, and that's the thing that we wanted to kind of share our stories in there to show that. And obviously we're not the only, but there are a lot of rags to riches stories, but probably because they're famous, because they're rags to riches stories. You know, hearing about all the other ones who are riches to more riches stories, it's not as interesting of a story. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think money is really important. It's not a subject that people want to talk about sometimes, and sometimes they want to talk about it too much. I think money is really important. You know, everyone, you start a business to make profit, which is to make money.
Yeah.
And what you do with that money is your choice, right? You can spend it on yourself, spend it on other people, spend it on your family. But I think I give you an example of how there's a double-edged sword to money. When I was at Just Eat as the first marketing director, I started off with a small marketing budget, and I had to work out how the hell I'm going to get people onto this website that we had. And I was being creative, resourceful, you know, tapping up my network, coming up with new ways, growth hacking and scrapping away, trying to think of things. And it was such a fun time for me, because it's like, and I was so used to this, and I was constricted, and
it's like a competition, isn't it? Trying to find new ways. When we were growing the TikTok, I suppose I was thinking of new ways to actually get people to watch without spending any money. Like, we grew everything organically, didn't we?
We said that right from the start. It was going to be, although we could throw money at it, this is a passion project. So I said, we're not throwing money, but we are going to grow organically, and however that.
And we've never done a paid ad for any of it,
No.
so it shows you how you can build a following from nothing.
Absolutely. So that bootstrap mentality was always in us. And then all of a sudden, within 2 years, we raised £10.5 million for Just Eat. And 3.5 million was put towards marketing. I don't know if I can swear, but I started my pants at this stage. I was not used to having so much money.
But if you're good with so little, then what can you do when you have all of that?
I know, but it was a strange feeling. And I think that's something which I'm still learning now. Like, when you have money, it's different. You have choices and options. And what do? We then went and did a commercial next to the X Factor and spent £300,000 doing that. And I felt
think
bored.
I remember that. Yeah.
Right? And I felt bored. I was like, you just buy it and do it. And, it's a different type of entrepreneurship. It's a different type of struggle. Yeah. But I remember the times in all my startups when I had less, not when I had more. That's the times I remember the most. And that's the time where I start to learn more about myself and struggle to find new ways of doing things. And then when you have money, it's really important, because money does help. You put money on, it gives fuel to the fire. If you've got something that's working, you do need to have that money. But there's a mindset change and how you use money in the right way, and how you use when you have no money as well. So coming from a working class background, it's still learning that actually when you have money, you have choice.
Yeah. definitely.
I suppose if you're testing it with a small amount of money and you see it's working, then an investor is more likely to put their money into it because they can see the model's working.
It's actually a great feedback loop because you were talking about status being confidence. It builds confidence in you as a person. So actually, I've got something that's working here, and I wonder if I can, 10x this. Will it continue to scale at this 10x rate? Not everything does.
No.
But because there's a diminishing return to money.
Yeah.
There's a diminishing return to marketing channels when you're starting a business. They are diminishing returns. And that's where the creativity is very important, because if you've got a marketing channel that doesn't rely on money, you've actually got an unfair advantage.
Yeah, that's without a doubt.
So you're talking about marketing channels. You said about the X Factor sponsorship. What do you find converts the best over like online, TV?
Yeah, in the world of marketing, they say that it's actually, you need to have seen the brand like 7 or 8 times before someone converts.
Like a touch point.
It's like a touch point. So when we did our X Factor ad, we were all sitting there and excited. We'd spent £300,000 making this belly and brain concept, and we won an award for it. And X Factor 7:15, I went on. I was like, yeah, my BlackBerry at the time was pinging, and congratulations, Ash, you've done your first TV campaign. And I was like, yeah, cool, did my first TV campaign, exciting. Bang, 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 and the pings were coming through on a BlackBerry. Then all of a sudden, my BlackBerry started to ping really fast. Ping, 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 ping. So what's happened? Ash, the website's down.
Oh no!
Because you couldn't cope.
Yeah, there was so much traffic being hit onto the website that the website crashed, and there's something we never thought of. Actually, hang on a sec, we're not used. This is what I'm saying. Where you think about going big, you need to start to think about infrastructure and other things to cope with the.
And it's not that uncommon for that to happen, is it? You hear of it quite a lot of the time, don't you? Suddenly, I don't know, a TV chef uses a particular thing, and bam, that site goes down. So it's quite a thing to have that infrastructure in place and see forward from what you're doing.
Exactly. And so, having understood that we never had the infrastructure in place, thankfully, we were very lucky. Most people, what we learned from that exercise actually is when we did the TV campaign too late in the day. Most people who are deciding to order takeaway or their evening dinner really think about it at 4 o'clock. 3 o'clock.
What, and X Factor was on later than
X Factor was
that.
later on that. So from every failure, you can have learnings. And my learnings were the fact that we were doing the campaign too late in the day. And also, we did it on a day which was, I think it was a midweek day. And most people order takeaways on Fridays and Saturdays. So actually, we got really lucky. What happened is that our website crashed. We tried to fix it. Next day it was fixed. We had thousands and thousands of people going to it. But on that Friday and Saturday, we had record orders.
Wow.
So we actually got lucky because people were just thinking, there's a way of ordering online.
Yeah.
And the timing, was
it was in their mind, they've seen it before.
Exactly.
Let's try that. Yeah.
So when we did our next set of TV advertising campaigns, we thought about timing, where we should do it, and we changed and adjusted things, and actually it saved. So that £300,000 was a good lesson.
It's the same with us with our spending on Facebook ads and Google ads for the shop,
your
isn't
business,
it? Yeah, we look at the timing for obviously for Christmas, for Easter, and when everything's shut down, and obviously you don't need anything. January, So we boost the social media easy advertising, the free advertising during those lower points, to be honest, and then only pay when there's so much excess out there in the market that you're just trying to sweep it up.
So it's a mixture of organic and paid together.
Yeah, very much.
Should we move on to intelligence
next?
Let's have a chat about that.
Yeah, sure. So intelligence is the typical thing that people think of as like IQ or book smarts or your grades, right?
Yeah. Have I got a degree or not?
Yeah. And then you think, was I good at school, therefore I was smart. And obviously that plays a role. And actually, if you look into the research, this whole idea of being intelligent is an advantage. And you can see loads of like the top, the kind of outlier successes, the ones which you make case studies out of because people know them and they're interested in them. They're actually probably off the charts, intelligent. Not every single one of them, but for the most part, you'll see that. So that's, okay, we got that one. That's the book smarts, you could say. And then you got street smarts, and that's we included emotional intelligence in that because that is about dealing with people. So the social intelligence, emotional intelligence, and that's where, like, Ash would say that's Ash's strength. He would say, like, your friends used to say, like, you're the glue that held them together, right? That was right? And that really helps because one thing you learn about business is it's about people.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Right? So that's huge. And then the third type of intelligence is creative intelligence. And it's like, can you come up with ideas? Can you be resourceful? Can you think of ways of coming out of a situation? And I really believe we're all much more creative than we think we are. And I used to think I'm more kind of the logical, academic, sciencey type, and I'm not creative. But recently I'm starting to realize, no, actually, I am a creative type. And I've actually been working with coaches myself, like executive coaches, business coaches, and I realized, actually, I'm much more of the creative type than I thought.
Do you find the more you do it, the better you get at it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a muscle.
So so you need the self-awareness first. So a lot of the book, a big theme of it is self-awareness. Like, what are you good at already? What do you enjoy doing? What are you drawn towards, right? And the second thing is like, what can you develop? And I think definitely they can all be developed, and you have to have a growth mindset around all these things. So intelligence is big, and the other side of intelligence is insight, which is like having a unique perspective or finding a gap in the market. Essentially, how you come up with ideas is the insight. And it's a huge unfair advantage. I don't know if you want to pick up on that one, Ash, and talk about that a bit.
Well, when it comes to intelligence, I didn't think I was the smartest person in school, right? And I think sometimes a lot of our listeners will be quite young and going through school. Your grades and your marks don't dictate your future.
No, I'm so pleased you said that, because that is what people think, isn't it? Absolutely.
Well, that's a message that's drilled into them, isn't it?
Oh, there's
if you're a failure, you're not going to be any good.
More than that, isn't there? You know, your creativity alone is worth 100 times more than those grades, I think. So.
Absolutely. And they don't grade you on creativity in school.
No.
Right?
No.
Yeah.
And they definitely should.
Right. And that's the challenge in schooling system. How can you grade creativity when everyone is unique and individual? You know, and everyone brings their own strengths. So as Hassan mentioned, one of the things I think is very important, business is about people, and you need to have people skills. And smarts are very important. I hire the smartest people I can find, but I also make sure that they have the right attitude, because the right attitude is really important. And I think a sustainable competitive advantage for companies and for people are those people who can learn the fastest, not always the smartest.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find the really smart people can be quite lazy because they found everything so easy, and then when they go into another challenge, they just sit back and they're just lazy about it.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
It's like, I should be able to do this.
Yeah.
Because I always have been able to, and actually, I can't.
And they've never been challenged, so they don't like that feeling.
Exactly.
The only constant in life is change.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to become agile and change, then that's going to be a detriment to your success. The reason why I've been successful in what I do is because I've invested a lot in my self-education. You can learn so much online. I've read more books than I would ever read if I'd went to college or school, because I just didn't like books at the time. But now I'm into books and writing the books. So I think that's really important to understand. Sometimes it knocks it out of you. Insight is really important. Look, insight is understanding something that somebody else doesn't know about a certain sector or business. So when we meet startup founders, we want to know what's the insight that led them to actually decide that there's a problem here to solve. And I want to know that the insight is something which I probably wouldn't know. Because if I knew it, then everyone else is going to know it. It's going to be easy for them to also do it. The competition increases, right?
Yeah.
So insight into what you're doing is very important, and why you're doing it. And I think that's really important. And then that insight then correlates to actually knowing something that somebody else doesn't know, and you see as a challenge and an opportunity. And there's many case studies in the book about having insights that come from your being. So if you're a woman, you might have insights into businesses that are for females.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? Or I was even thinking hobbies there, because one of my hobbies was making YouTube videos and watching YouTube videos. And then I saw a gap in the market for what we're doing now that wasn't being filled. And I suppose Dad had the same, doing your radio controlled models.
Yeah.
You saw a gap in the market with distribution.
Yeah, I mean, our gap in the market, really, I suppose, for YouTube was we were sat around a table similar to this when we were out skiing in a chalet, weren't we? And 2 nights on the trot, I'd been talking with the guys. There was a young crowd in that particular chalet, which is why we like it, to be honest, because you meet more people. For 2 hours we're talking business, finance, all sorts. They're throwing all these questions at, and at the end of the second day I said, don't they teach you any of this at school yet? And they went, no. I went, well, that is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And Curtis sort of pointed out the next day, he said, look, this is, you're talking to a few and they're absorbed in what you have to say. Let's put it out on YouTube. And obviously at the start of lockdown we did, and it sort of found a niche, didn't it?
So it's almost pairing those two insights together, the YouTube and then noticing that this wasn't being taught, and then together it was successful.
Absolutely. And naturally, insight leads to niche. Right? And so many people come up. When I started Just Eat, everything was like, everyone orders takeaway.
Yeah.
But actually, it's really hard to market to everyone. I've got to pick a segment. I've got to niche into something. Although everyone does order takeaway now.
Yeah.
It's a mass product.
Yeah.
And I've got a funny story about how we realized that actually it was the gamers that ordered most of the takeaway on our website, which is really bad at the
They don't
time.
want to stop playing their games.
Exactly right. And I thought it was students. So I went after the students first. And then I realized actually
There's probably an
gamers.
overlap there, though, isn't there? Students, gamers.
Yeah, but these were like hardcore gamers,
really?
and they were gamers who didn't care about ordering a £20 pizza. It's just like bang, bang, just order. It's like, where students, even if they were gamers, they'll still order the meal deal for £6. What we, you know, so, and they'll take advantage of all the voucher codes and everything else. So insight leads to understanding your niche better, or it also leads into doing things which other people can't do because you're the right founder to actually do that job, that specific business.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure you've got like ideas around that. So that's kind of like where I see it coming from. And you're already a step ahead when you are in the industry or know about something or have some insight that nobody else knows about. Starting an idea just from the outside, it's much harder to succeed in it. You can still do it, but it's much harder to succeed in.
And quite often you've only got to come up, if you've got 40 or 100 spokes to a wheel for that idea, you've only got to change one or two, and that's a unique business. And a lot of people ask us, well, what shall I go into business doing? You say, well, you've got to come up with that insight or that little niche. You haven't got to invent anything. I think you have. You've got to invent the next Amazon or whatever it happens to be. You've only got to change a couple of things, and suddenly you've got a unique product that people prefer over the existing market.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to want one solution to be wealthy. Do this business, be wealthy. It's like drop shipping became that for a while, and then everyone started doing it, got saturated, and that's the problem, isn't it? There's no one solution. How would you say you can get that insight to anyone listening?
Have more experiences.
Travel
more, meet more people.
I think that's
just putting yourself out there.
I mean, I was lucky because I was competing around the world with radio control helicopters. So I was visiting all over the world, and I've been sort of paid to travel, which was fantastic. You meet all these guys, and we've said in one of the podcasts recently that if you can travel, you gain insight to different nations and different things. And also, if you get friends with people, the next time you go to Shanghai or to Shenzhen or to California, you've got a base as well. You don't even got to pay hotels, and it's not being tight that you don't want to pay those hotels. You actually have a better experience staying with your mate. And that's all, like, it all gradually comes together by meeting people and broadening your horizons, doesn't it? So I think that's brilliant.
I suppose that links to like luck and location.
Exactly.
We should probably talk about that because that's the next one.
So so location and luck is right place, right time, and that's often like there. But it's I want to talk about luck because we often talk about luck in terms of timing, but luck in general, just to get more lucky. There's this phrase, this increase your surface area to luck. Just increase the chance that you're going to have it. Like, a simple way of saying this is like, if you want to roll a double six, like if you just keep rolling, you'll get there. No one's counting how many times you fail. Just keep trying. So it's that kind of thing of like, just get out there, get more experiences. What doesn't work? Somebody just sitting there, just staring at the ceiling.
When am I going to get lucky?
When am I going to get exactly?
I never get lucky. I never get any luck.
I
hate that.
Absolutely.
And even when you get the luck, if you're thinking that way, you're probably not even going to recognize it, are you?
It's exactly right. There's a book by Professor Richard Wiseman, who talks. He's a psychology professor, and he's done experiments about luck, and people who consider themselves lucky will just spot more opportunities. And he's done actual practical experience, and we've got that example in the book as well. And that ties into the insight thing. So I wanted to connect those two things, which is that what doesn't work is to just think, what idea what's going to work? What's big right now? NFTs, dropshipping, whatever. It's like, no, don't just chase that. Try different things. Get involved in some projects. Even get a job. Like, there's nothing wrong with getting a job, and you learn about an industry and you see where gaps in the market in that industry are.
We say that all the time. If you don't know what you want to do when you leave school, take a year out, go and do 20 jobs if you want.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. Find another one, quit that one, go to that one.
But we find people don't want to do that, do they?
They don't want to do it.
Like, how can I skip that step?
And also they not only do they not want to do it, they think they're going to be behind a year. And really, it doesn't work that way anyway. You're going to do a career for your life, and it's based on the number of years. They think like that because of education.
Yes,
because it's based on the year. And they don't want to lose a year and be behind. It doesn't work like that. You just have to try different things. So location and luck is huge. You have to be there's a pros and cons to being in like big business hubs, like in London or in Silicon Valley or something, right? But there are pros and cons to it because you can actually pay less in office rent. You can actually get some insights into things that are not met in wherever you live in the world, whatever city you are in the world. Somewhere you're in a developing country or something, you get some more insights about ideas there. So you have to just understand the double-edged nature of being in the right location. If you want to get into a particular industry, go to that place where that industry is. Why not? That's when you can have more serendipity and luck and run into people who are doing that. You know, people who want to get into, to show business and TV and film, they go to Hollywood or maybe here in the UK in London, and it works.
You've got to put yourself in that position.
Go to the place, go to where it's at. That actually makes a difference. But now it's opening up with the whole idea of the internet, and not just now, but like there's so much you could do remotely. There's so much you could just travel around. I did that. I was kind of digital nomad thing for a while. So yeah, it's big. It's where you're based. And Ash already mentioned the north-south divide and stuff like that. Yeah, that makes a difference. But don't make that into a victim thing. Understand that actually has pros to it as well, and try and use the advantage that you get out of doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we were doing the research for the book, we spoke to hundreds of entrepreneurs, well-known, and those doing seriously well who are on social media. And every time we sat down with them and spoke to them, and all my network and people I talked to, everyone always says that it's somewhere along the lines of the conversation, I got lucky. And then I was like, oh, okay. And someone mentions good fortune. They had some good fortune somewhere, and they took advantage of that good fortune. And what we're trying to say in the book is we're all lucky in our own different ways. It's just identifying how to see that first. I think just being born in Britain and having a British passport is being lucky.
Of course, or in the States or wherever you happen to be. You know, you're in a place where you can make a difference.
Exactly.
And I've had multiple, what a lot of people say, well, it's all right for you. And I hate that. It's all right for you. Well, it's all right for you as well. Everyone's got their advantage. Everyone can do this Miles framework and see what their advantage is. And, putting yourself in a position to take advantage of that luck, that's the key, isn't it? Now, we're saying about moving out to, say, Silicon Valley, if that's where you've got to be. Well, someone will turn around to me, I ain't got the money for a plane ticket. Yeah, well, go and work in McDonald's for, let's say, 6-7 weeks. You'll have the money to go to Silicon Valley. You might not have the money to come back, but you might not need to come back. You can make it happen, can't you? You can make things happen.
I think a lot of people's ego holds them back from doing certain jobs as well, and they see, if I start working at McDonald's, that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. So that's something maybe people need to think about.
Absolutely. I mean, when I moved to London when I was 19, all my friends were at university. I went to the local grammar school. They went on to do dentistry and law and all these other great subjects. And there's me with a rucksack going to London to go to work in the office. And I was like, and it came into my mind, should I be doing this now? And why am I working when everyone else is having fun? That's what I thought. And now those same friends that I speak to, who've done seriously well in their own lives, and most of them have become entrepreneurs, I've said, you took the right route. You did the right thing. I was like, at the time though, it doesn't feel like the right thing. So the more discomfort and the more areas in life where you do things which is like my parents used to say to me, everyone's walking that way and you're always walking that way. And it kind of like weirdly now when I go back home to my parents, go, they're walking that way, see I'm walking that way. So yeah, you're right. Actually, you do need to do something different. The system and society says you need to do a certain thing. You shouldn't work in McDonald's, or you should work in a job and you've got a minimum work there for at least 18 months. Otherwise, it's going to look weird on your CV, right?
So what?
Yeah, so what? Exactly. So what? And I think this is the way the system and society wants to try to filter out and try and create some consistency. I went to a job once and a freelance work that I was doing, and on my CV I had my date of birth at that time, so a long time ago now. You don't need to put date of birth on there. And it said I was 22 years old. And he was like, you got all the experience. And I was talking to the CEO across the table like this, and he was like, you got all this experience and everything, Ash. And I said, what is it? He goes, yeah, but and he just said it. He goes, you're a bit young. That's what he said to me. I was like, I said,
so if you got the experience, why is he measuring it on your age?
I know. And he was just, and he was, thinking about it. And I was wondering why he was thinking about this. And so I said, can you pass me my CV? Can you give me your pen?
Yeah.
Gave me the pen, gave me the CV. I crossed out my age from 22, from 22, and put 3 there and said, have I got the job now?
Yeah.
And I got the job.
If you can do it, you're old enough.
I bet he loved that.
Yeah. And I think that courageousness in me came because I was like, I wasn't entitled. I didn't feel entitled. We talked about this when you get a degree or get this, and I had no entitlement. I was just like, I had the courage to just go out and say, look, I know I can do this, and I believe in myself. And I went back and told some friends, like, you're so mad, you never do that. And it's like, but that was the thing, right? And I actually
it makes you stand out as well, doesn't it, that sort of thing. I always think one of the bravest things Curtis did, he went to a very nice school, and everyone in your year pretty much went to university,
Yeah.
and he made the decision not to. And to go against that amount of peer pressure to, like, we're going to this open event at this university, you coming along? No, I don't want to get sucked into wanting to go that route. I always think that's a really brave decision, and it's paid dividends, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my friends that have gone into university and now they're just starting, and some of them are becoming entrepreneurs. And then I've got all of those years where I've learnt on the job. But I remember when I first went into, like you're saying, go into somewhere that challenges you. I went to work with a business coach and doing the videography for them. And then I learnt all about the marketing behind the scenes, and they were saying all these words I didn't understand. And the more I was kind of experiencing, I was trying to learn, get my head around it. Then I could level up and then bring that into what we're doing now. There's so much you can bring from those experiences.
And you're a true inspiration for the next generation. That's the thing. We haven't been, my story was quite hidden for a while until Hassan approached me and said, Ash, you got an interesting story here.
Yeah.
You should talk about it. And I was like, oh, no, I don't really want to say. I didn't go to university and I'm from Birmingham and, like I'm working class. But now everyone's connecting to that authenticity.
Yeah.
And the world of business is changing now, where people are talking about their stories and their health challenges and family and life and mental well-being and so on as well.
And also questioning that return on investment from going to university, because I think more and more, as we spoke earlier, are talking about that money machine that's sucking you into that. And I mean, you did all sorts of jobs, didn't you? I mean, lots and lots of different jobs.
You even helped me on some of them, didn't you?
Yeah, well, when you had a wedding to video, you needed extra cameramen, so I was there on the cameras. But you did extras, didn't you, for filming, and got signed up to an agency, which worked. They sort of dovetailed, didn't they? Because you had filming jobs when you had, and then when you didn't, something came up on filming. It was what an experience. It's
I got to speak to a lot of cool people when I was doing the extra work. But then it's all the behind the scenes. I wasn't probably meant to, but I went around and spoke to the cameramen and kind of got their insights on things.
Because why not?
Yeah, if you're there, you might as well. And if anyone's done extra work before, you know that you're just sitting around for ages and ages. So you got that time. I used that time to read books. So I read a lot of the business books when I was doing that. So it's just using all these different jobs, how you can like add them together like a puzzle piece, isn't it? And having I had the weddings and then these jobs all adding together.
And of course that, I believe, leads us into the next one, which is status and confidence. And of course you build that confidence and that status by doing, don't you, as well as being able to show. So I know if you want to sort of fill us a little bit more in on that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of self-help, toxic positivity on Instagram and so on. So if you just look in the mirror and say to yourself, just do it, and it's going to happen. And the reality is, it's
manifest
not like that.
it.
Yeah, just manifest it. Just dream about it. Sit on it. You can be on the beach anytime.
The law of attraction, isn't it? All of that stuff.
And, I believe in visualization, but the law of attraction, I think, is like, it's another subject altogether. But I think to build your status, one of the biggest elements of status that we talk about is who you know, your network. Makes a massive difference in life. Who you know makes a massive difference. It opens doors for you, gives you opportunities where you wouldn't have them before. But also, one of the things I struggled with was when I came to London, I saw everyone around me successful and doing really well, and nice cars, buildings and everything. And, I didn't have any of this. And I started to think to myself, and start to feel a bit down about myself around things. And I realized that the status that you feel is actually what you feel inside yourself first, before what you see on the outside. You can wear the nice watch and the clothes and the cars. I've had all that. But what I've realized is that the inner status is how you feel from inside that matters. And what you're saying there, Mark, is confidence. Confidence, though, comes from your inner status.
Without a doubt.
And I think that story that you tell yourself about the world inside your own mind is the most important part of status for me. And from where, where your authenticity and your human side of yourself comes out. And I think people are hiding that away a lot from social media, and although they think they're showing it, but it's done in such a way that doesn't show the reality behind the scenes. And I think it's coming about. And of course, network, who makes a massive difference.
It's your net worth.
Yeah.
It's very, very important.
Hassan, you have a lot to say about status, right?
Status is big because all the other things, if you can imagine, they can all feed into status. like how much money you've got. You can kind of, there are people that leverage that into building a status. Where you're located. We give a story of like people who pick these prestigious locations, like we have an office in Mayfair and stuff. That's to build up status.
Yes.
You can talk about it in terms of your intelligence that can build your status, your expertise, and like what you know. And that's probably the best way to build status, is building up your expertise, is that learning. Ash talked about, never-ending learning. All these miles things are on the foundation of mindset, and lifelong learning is one of the mindsets that you just got to have. And I think confidence comes from competence as well. And if you learn to be good at something and you build that expertise, and I did it through taking an online course. I wasn't like a natural entrepreneur, always hustling, no, I actually spent some money. I saved up my student loan from when I went to university. I didn't spend it all. I saved it up. I was living with my parents anyway. And then I just thought, you know what, I'm going to invest in this because this makes sense to me. I've done my due diligence on it. People told me it's a scam because it was talking about how you can do like a passive income business and stuff. And I was like, no, but the way they're explaining it isn't that way. I think it makes sense. And people are like, oh, I can't believe you took that scammy course and stuff. And no, you know what? It took 2 years of hard work. I didn't have the 4-hour work week from the get-go. It was like working crazy hours. But I did get to the point where business was running itself.
Yeah.
And I got there through leveling up my knowledge. And by learning, I was able to increase my status because, first of all, I know what I'm doing now. I've tested it out. I've learned about it. I've tried it. And also, I've got the success stories now. I've got clients who are happy with me, so I can feel better. I get referrals from them and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's a whole journey that you go on. But like, I think status is very big on how you think about yourself. And I think it's confidence, but not just empty confidence and affirmations and stuff. No, actually learn something and let's be built on a foundation of confidence. And then the other C, because this is something that we didn't actually put in the book. I was thinking of like the 3 C's. It's like confidence, connections, and competence is one of them as well. The other one is contingencies, which is like, the financial cushion. And competence is just like, build it up and try things out, learn about things, take courses, publish stuff. One of the things about luck is put stuff out there. Write an article, put some posts, create a TikTok thing, like teach other people stuff. Let's say you enjoy doing that. Then you can get lucky. Then you get serendipity. Things start to happen.
Yeah.
Speak to people, publish yourself, put yourself out there. Try things, try and sell something. Oh, that feels bad, the rejection. Oh, someone said no to me. Just getting past that. And that's something that I push myself to do because I'm a natural kind of introvert and don't really want to do that.
That's what I was going to ask, actually. Right? What do you think, like introvert, extrovert, does it have an effect on your success? But you should know what you are and focus on the strengths of that. Balance yourself out if you need to in other areas, or just partner up with somebody else. Right? If you're not natural, if you're the kind of nerdy type and maybe your unfair advantage is your technical expertise, you can code and you can create cool software. Usually that type of person isn't the best at like fundraising and getting clients and customers and public speaking,
socializing,
right? So, but you can partner up with somebody. You know, you watch The Apprentice. I grew up watching that and thinking that you have to be so well-rounded and good at everything, and you have to sell at a market stall, and you have to be able to create an advert, and you have to be able to, I don't know, all this other stuff that they do. And it's like, imagine Mark Zuckerberg trying to sell at a market stall. Like, would he be any good? Right?
No, but the process is designed to make you look silly, isn't it? The Apprentice. Like,
exactly.
Not everyone's going to be good at everything.
Absolutely, and that was a big shift. And one of the things I've learned from Ash as well, we were talking about like how you were learning and talking to the cameramen and stuff, right? Like that is huge, and you can build up your expertise and status just by asking questions. Ash used to like ask his CEO to lunch when he was like just a low-level employee and just be like, can we have lunch? I want to ask you some questions. And he'll just pick his brains. And
he actually went to lunch with you?
Yeah, and we created a whole system, and then they had lunch with the CEO for everyone else as well.
Oh, really?
As a result of it.
That's cool.
I mean, at some point, if you ask enough, someone's going to say yes, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. You just got to have the confidence, and having confidence isn't about putting a suit on and all the bling and everything and go, well, I'm confident now. That's a very, very thin confidence line, isn't it? Because you're found out straight away. So I know Curtis quite often says to me, you should dress better, you should go out, you got an image now and all this sort of stuff. But really the confidence is in there. It doesn't need a mask. I'm confident with what I do, where I go, what I do, and that continual learning curve is great.
Yeah, it's just sometimes people wouldn't expect you wearing certain things, but now I think you're really smart, actually.
Well, we're trying, aren't we?
We say he's very drippy now. That's his new word.
Nice.
Drippy.
I'm drippy.
Nice.
Yeah. We nearly went Caribbean mode there because we're only just back. Your man. So what would you guys say individually your unfair advantage is? If you had to pick one thing that has your major thing? Because my one is, you might not think this is right, but I would say my unfair advantage is being dyslexic. Now, I always say mildly dyslexic, but according to Curtis, you either are or you aren't, and I am.
I think you're heavily dyslexic.
Oh, thank you. That's nice, isn't it?
So am I. So am I. To be fair,
really?
we both are.
And I see that as an advantage. And at school, they would have seen it exactly the opposite to that. And the reason I see it as an advantage is because I come up with solutions to things fairly quickly. Whether or not people agree with them, well, let's get on with that. Let's do that. Yeah, I can see that. And 90% of the time it works out. But a lot of people seem to have a debate about a lot of the things that will come, let's do that, don't they? And I would say that's my unfair advantage. I don't know what Curtis has thought of his one is.
Yeah, I'd probably say mine is being surrounded by business people like my granddad and my dad also. Just from an early age, knowing there's that other path, you don't have to go down the school route. So yeah, that's probably my biggest one.
Nice.
Yeah, very good. Very good. I mean, a lot of people ask me, and the thing with unfair advantage is they can change over time as well.
Yeah.
And there can be a lot of things from childhood as well. So my unfair advantage is that I've had less of things in life, right? Yeah. So I've not had the university degree, I've not had the money, and so that's made me think in a certain way, and that way is creative. So my superpower is my creativity. And I think that's really where my unfair advantage lies. And when I'm in a boardroom or a meeting, I really excel on the creativity side. I can see options and ideas. I can see how to do things in an easier way or cheaper way or more resourceful way. And I'm also saying yes to a lot more things than I say no to.
I like that. It's so easy to say no, isn't it? Just an experience. I had someone ask me just recently, do you want to, was it Wimbledon or something, do you want to go to Wimbledon? I think, I'm not really into tennis, but you could do that, can you? No, it's so easy to say no, block a day out. It's hard, isn't it, because I've got things on, but you say yes. What an experience that was. What an experience. It's so easy to say no. You've got to say yes, haven't you?
And it's like you playing golf with the guy in Antigua as well. He asked you if you wanted to play golf.
Yeah, it was immediately. It was yes, let's sort it out, let's get it done, because yes is a great word. No is no experience. You're not going to learn anything, find out anything, talk to someone new. It's ridiculous. So
Mark, do you find that you have to say, because it's absolutely, especially in the beginning of your journey, saying yes is very important. Like, can you do this? And you're like, I'm not sure if I can, but yes, I'll figure it out, right? It's that kind of resourcefulness thing, and just to keep options open. Do you find now that when you're hit with so much opportunity and you get to that stage in your life where it's like, especially if you get some prominence on something, you're being probably bombarded with opportunities, and is that a skill that you've had to learn to say no to things as well?
I don't, generally I try not to say no. I try and pass it on to someone, so even from school, I mean, I had when I left school, I had 5 jobs, I think we've talked about this, lined up, different options, because I was told by the careers guy, your only option is a YTS, which is a youth training scheme, and it paid £24 or something like that a week. I said, well, I'm not doing that. So I sorted out 5 different jobs I could go to, which gave me about £43 a week. So it's quite a step up. And I had to decide which one I wanted. And the other 4 I gave away to friends at school that were leaving as well. So, well, look, do you want to do that? Do you want to do that? One of them is actually running that business now and is very, very successful. And I think I've always tried to, rather than say no, try and go, well, how can I do something with that? If it doesn't benefit me, it can benefit someone. So, I know someone down the road that's better at that than me, and I've not got time for that. Well, let's do that. And it also means you retain that contact, even if you're not doing the work. You retain the contact. So for me, that works very well.
I think the only thing we do say no to is lots of brand deals, but we we said that from the start anyway. We didn't do brand deals, like every brand deal under the sun, because then you're just losing your credibility. So we have like partners we work for 12 months or so.
Yeah, and of course you can pick up a free stock from Public worth all the way up, you like that integration, all the way up to $1,000 if you're in the USA.
And you can get $10 worth of free Bitcoin with the link down below from Coinbase.
But we do try to do as few brand deals as we can, because we like to stay clean, and we'll only do a brand deal with something we 100% believe in. And that means 99% of things that come across the table do get thrown away. It's not a no, it's a that doesn't fit with what we do. So
nice. Okay, so for my unfair advantage, it's sometimes hard to boil it down, but I think for me, I've always been good at like absorbing information quickly and learning, because I'm just really into just learning more and more, and then explaining it in a simple way. And I think that's what really helped us with the book, and that's why the book has done so well. And we get so much feedback, and we got the business book of the year and all this kind of stuff. And I think actually it's because we did that process. And the other thing actually, which brings us on to this thing that I kind of hinted at before we started recording, is that we followed the startup like principles for the book. We treated it as like a almost like a software product where we tested out small and stuff. And actually, I brought this along because this was our first test.
Look at that.
Yeah, that was like we were going to self-publish.
Yeah.
And this gave us our publishing deal. Because, publishing deals, unless you have massive reach or you're, celebrity or an academic or something like that, it's going to be hard to get. We didn't have any of that, but we had a good idea. And they saw that we were up for it. We were speaking on stages. We were testing the concept. We were mentoring startup founders and want-to-be entrepreneurs as well, and the kind of coaching. And that's how we got all that feedback and we were able to create it. And I think that kind of ability to kind of distill information in a simple way and actually take a lot of, especially Ash's experiences and stuff and case studies, and just put that in a simple way, I think that's really helped me. And when I think about my business side, is building trust, which is kind of linked to it. I was able to just get it's funny, I was doing a website building business and I didn't have a website.
Oh really?
I was getting a referral only. At the beginning I was overthinking, my website's not good enough, I'm too scared to launch my business. If anyone else has got the fear of launching, I had that massively. And then I realized I didn't even need it. I got clients. They were so happy. They gave me referrals. I got some others, and then I did all these other marketing things. So I think to be able to build trust quickly, to be able to explain things, and I think a lot of people tell me oh, okay, you explain that in a nice way, in a simple way. There's a humility, and I think I get that a lot. So I'm like, okay, I'm listening. I think that's one of the unfair advantages I've got there.
I think trust is a very, very big thing in business. I know we talk about it from time to time, and I'm probably a bit too trusting, perhaps, but I prefer to trust, because I think once you start employing, you've got to trust. 100% you've got to trust in all of your staff, and I like trust, don't I?
Yeah, and what you're saying about making things simple, I think so many people just they overcomplicate things, and that's what we try and do with the YouTube videos. So I take Dad's all his different stories and simplify some of them, find the lessons in the stories, which has worked well for us. So it just gives you that bigger reach as well, and people can actually understand your message better. So
and the other thing I've taken from the book is that the focusing on your strengths as well, because one of the things I always say is you need to employ experts or get experts to do jobs, because you'll only ever become 80% maybe of an expert, no matter how hard you study, because that's their area of expertise. I don't know if you want to sort of expedite on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's two ways you can approach that. Firstly, if you think about having experts, it's really important, absolutely, but don't use that as an excuse not to start. I think that's the first thing. When you're starting a business or starting any project, you've got to be more of a journalist.
Yeah.
And then you start to build a project and get some momentum on a project, and then you go realize actually which are the areas of the business where I want to focus more on, and which are the areas I think someone else can do better than me. And that's when you bring the experts in. If you bring the experts in right from the outset and said, I want to start something, if I ever sat down with my accountant and said I'm going to start a new business, his response is always, it's not going to work. And he's an expert, but he's an expert in accounts. Yeah. Right? So he doesn't really know. I'm the entrepreneur. Right? 9 out of 10 businesses fail. Entrepreneurship is very hard. There's an element of risk that needs to be taken. And you have to be the expert in risk taking. And then design a system that allows experts and people to come within that system to be able to help you perform and reach the vision that you want to get to.
And you're gradually taking those hats off as you go.
So you work on your weaknesses to make those as strong as you can, and then bring the experts in when you need them.
Yeah, or you just identify. It depends on, when you're doing a project. I've always said that I like working with other people. So one of my strengths is collaborating.
Yeah,
I like to work with other people, and I like to do that from the outset to make the project more successful, because it can get very demotivating when you're trying to do everything yourself.
Yeah.
And you're not good at the accounts or the finance or whatever part of the business, and it's very demotivating, and you can stop. And most people start, but they don't finish. And what you want to try and do is get yourself into the best position possible to start something, to continue it, to go through the grueling side of it, and to try and finish it.
Yeah.
And there's different stages of where you bring those experts in and people in to help you get to those lines. So when you're selling a business, maybe an exit strategy, you need an M&A expert to come in and help you with that, because they're going to make a big difference. They might even increase the value of a company by its 10x.
Yeah.
Right? Or you can try and do it yourself. I know people have done it themselves, but in hindsight, they're like, well, okay, So every stage of what you're trying to do in your project or your business, it's important to understand there's other people out there who are willing to help and willing to support you.
And who can see the possibilities as well.
Who can see the possibilities.
I always think a lot of the time when you have partnerships, they're quite often two alike. And I always think in a partnership you need, A and B. They've almost got to be chalk and cheese.
We're very different, aren't we?
We are very different. Hence, like father, like son, we have our little discussions where we think in a different way, and eventually it'll come around to the way I think. As long as we argue enough. Actually, it's the opposite. As long as we argue enough, it'll go towards Curtis. But I think it
depends what it's on. If it's on like new media,
it's quite good to have that little bit of friction. If you've got too much agreement in a partnership, actually, it's probably going to go one way down the tube.
Yeah, you don't want to have all yes men, all yes people around you. Basically, you want to have a bit of tension, creative tension, as I say. And the way we use this system where we have an integrator and a visionary, and sometimes you find two visionaries together who just bash heads, and then you don't have the integrator. So the integrators want to just get the stuff done. Right. And as entrepreneurs, we dream big. We want to do all these cool things, and every time we go to another trip, and you come back from Antigua, you want to do something else. You want to invent a trick, but you realize actually you got to make the choice: is the risk right? Can I get the integrator to help me make it happen? And I think that's where the partnerships I've been in have worked the best, where you're not the same person. It also comes down to when you're recruiting people. Don't hire people like yourself. Hire people who are going to be the opposite, and you might not vibe with them, but the thing is that they have the right attitude and have the right skills that's going to help your business and give them the opportunity to showcase their strengths and their superpowers, create the system to allow them to do that.
I mean, obviously having an open mindset, that is sort of a bit of a buzzword, isn't it, pretty much? But I like to think of things, rather than me saying, I can't do that, I'd rather say, I don't know how to do that yet. And I will learn it if I need to learn it. And I think that opens your mind up quite a lot to what's possible out there, because, if you can do it, well, of course I can get somewhere down the line, can't I?
That's the growth mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
And you can see that from the success that you've had on TikTok. You're one of the most followed persons, right? And
actually, Dad was the one that came up with TikTok, as where I was all like for the YouTube side of things. Dad said about TikTok, which you wouldn't expect.
No.
Would you? Yeah.
I'm down there with the kids. What can I say? But you don't find me dancing that much on there, that's for sure. So what's next for 2022 then? Where's the path taking you guys?
The book's coming out in the US.
Oh
yeah! So we got a publishing. So at first, as I said, we didn't have big platforms or anything, but the book's done really well, and we got a publishing deal in the US as well. So it's coming out in the summer. Right now, we have loads of US fans, actually, American fans, Canadians. They just get the book shipped to them from the Amazon.co.uk, I think. So it's available internationally, but just not in North America. So they wait like a couple of weeks, but we have loads of those. But they're actually going to be able to get a Kindle and an audio book now as well when it comes out in June. So we'll probably do a bit of a tour over there and stuff like that. We're also doing more courses. So we're kind of launching the Unfair Academy, and we're doing some online courses, because that's what changed my life, and I've always wanted to kind of help people level up. So that's kind of what we're going to be focusing on now, and probably the next one we're going to do is about writing a book, actually. So that's probably going to be the next course. So
we need that one.
Come join me. You're very welcome.
A lot of people are asking for a second book, and I'm like, second book, another one. But then you know what they say? They say when you write the second one, the first one becomes a bestseller again, right? Because it's like a continuation. We're really proud of the impact the book has had. Like first-time authors becoming a bestseller, winning Business Book of 2021 last year. It's been translated into multiple languages, and it's people in Dubai, China, Japan, everywhere. It's crazy the amount of people who are reading it and getting impact from it and value from it. Like from different locations. Like you mentioned someone in Nigeria that you helped, and I mean it's
nuts, isn't it?
It's nuts, right? And that's really kind of like amazing feeling to have the feeling that actually it's not about building our own prominence, but it's also about helping and impacting other people. And I think that that's a value that we carry, that we want to impact as many people as possible. So we're doing courses, we do mentoring, and we do coaching, and mainly coaching. I've still continued to run my startups. I love to be in the startups and in the entrepreneur
it's exciting, isn't
trenches
it?
And things are changing all the time, and it makes me feel relevant. So when we have people on our coaching program and they're asking entrepreneurship questions, startup questions, and if they're generic questions, Hassan can comfortably answer many of those. But there's specific questions might be about marketing. Well, I'm trying something, and I've just done it last month, and this is my interest in it or my experience around it. So together, As a two-man team, we bring lots of different type of experiences that makes us kind of like a good place where entrepreneurs can start to talk to us really and give them the real insight, and not none of the anyone can do it crap. It's anyone can do it, but when you know your unfair advantage, you're going to put yourself in a much more stronger position.
And I think anyone that reads this book really with an open mindset will see that all their disadvantages if they read it properly, are going to fade away. You see your disadvantages as advantages, and that's what I took from it. And I think that's why it's successful, because it can impact anyone.
Yeah, not even just business people. It could be anyone.
And that's what we found with the book, actually. It was written from the startup entrepreneurship perspective, but the impact's been much wider for personal development. And the essence of the book is to be grateful.
Yeah.
To be grateful for what we do have.
Yeah. And I say that, don't I? I say I'm grateful every day. It's nice to wake up in a nice house, nice part of England. The sun is shining today. What could be better? You got to be grateful for everything, because it's all a blessing, isn't it? Really, at the end of the day. So
Absolutely.
That's quite deep, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've got two final questions we usually ask. My one is, if you could only invest in one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be and why?
For you, Ash, first.
Okay. I think it would be me.
Yeah.
Right?
I like that one.
Me.
Yeah.
Just investing in yourself.
Yeah, investing in myself. And I think the thing I'm learning this year is more about self-care. When I was thinking about investing in myself, it's like learning new things, doing courses, meeting new people, going out of my way to meet the people that I think are going to help me learn and grow. So I think personal growth is the most important thing, because we are the ones which can
most impact your life,
impact our own life, and also the people around us, because if you're ill and unwell and not doing the right things, then you're not there for people. And I think investment in yourself is the biggest thing that anyone can do, and I only learned that I learned that from a young age. I didn't realize I was doing it. I was reading books. You can buy a £10 book, and the investment you can make, the ROI on a £10 book.
Yeah.
It's a lifetime of knowledge read in a week.
Yeah.
And you go, how cheap was that?
That's mind-blowing, right? You don't need to do expensive
things. The other day I heard on Instagram, it's like, how do you get 10 hours with a billionaire? For like $10 you can buy the book. It's an awesome way to do it.
And if you don't like reading, there's the audiobook now as well. And it's like, what is it, $7.99 a month or something?
And sometimes it's even read by the author, which is even better. They just write in your ear.
And that was fun, actually. We had a lot of fun recording our audiobook and stuff. And unfortunately, Ash stole my answer. It's invest in yourself. It really. So if we break it down.
No, you can't have that.
I can't have that.
No, he's had that.
NFTs.
Just pick something. Bitcoin.
Of course, you can have that, because if that's what you are, that's what you are. I mean, the podcast we did the other day, that was my answer, because the guest asked me, and it was exactly the same answer. Invest in yourself, because you live with yourself 24/7, don't you? You're the only one that does. So invest in yourself, because you've then got more to give. And it's 100% returns every time, really. So that leads me to my final question. So Ash, we'll go with you first. When is enough?
Ooh, okay.
You can take this all sorts of ways as well.
It is, isn't it? It depends on what it is. If you're thinking about it from a financial perspective, enough is enough when you can roll out of bed and decide whatever you want to do in the morning, and you can do it without working.
Freedom,
yeah.
Is that forever? Or that's another thing, isn't it? You could probably do that for 20 years, but if you're not invested correctly, then that would run out eventually.
Yeah, I mean, you would design it so that you've got passive income, and you would design it so that you can do that for a longer period of time. You don't know what's around the corner, and life can take you many different ways. In life, and I think the enough is when you have the feeling of contentment, that with whatever you have, you're actually content with it.
I think contentment is a great thing.
And financially, it's the ability to choose where you want to work and what project you want to work on. We were talking about this in the car, actually, coming up, saying, okay, I'm working hard. My parents are like, why don't you just, take it easy now? And I'm still got that in me. And I think if you've got the energy to do certain things, it's not just about the money. Like, I know that even when I've done a lot of things, I'm going to carry on doing other things. But
it's choice at that point.
It's choice, though. It's why you're doing it and the reason behind it. And if when you remove the financial elements of that, then you can then think about actually there's another reason for why you're doing it, and whether it's having impact, whether it's making something different in the world. And it's very hard to define what enough is for certain people, though, right? But it's you only realize that we as a human being, you know, like we want to go from everyone's dream is to become a millionaire, but when you get there, you're like, okay, now what? Now what?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that guy's got the yacht. I want the yacht now, and I want the 100 million. And
I think most people dream of spending $1 million, don't they,
Yeah.
rather than actually having $1 million for the freedom.
I think overshooting on your income to the detriment of your personal well-being is the wrong thing, and that's where enough comes in.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great answer. That's the best answer we've had for that question.
I would say so, yeah.
Right, so no pressure.
No pressure.
Yeah.
I want to talk about like, so I'll get to the specifics of the question, but I want to talk about the people confusing success and the symbols of success.
Yeah.
And people chase the symbols. It's almost like chasing money. It's actually not the thing. The money is just a medium of exchange or a way of keeping score or whatever. But you have to actually go for what is it that I actually want. You have to actually figure that out and know when you've reached it. And that's the point of enough. And there are certain things like knowledge. There is no enough. I think knowledge, you can always go. There is useless knowledge or even detrimental knowledge. There is such a thing. But in general, knowledge, the more you can, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. Actually,
Yeah, it's amazing that
It's
actually.
incredible.
Yeah, I was saying that just recently, you know, because we've been studying up on quite a lot, and you go, I thought I knew quite a lot about that.
Yeah.
It turns out I've only read page 1. You know, and it's massive, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
If
it's
you knew all of
amazing.
that, you probably never get started in the first place.
Yeah.
Like with all the camera work I used to do, it's like if I never knew, like starting a wedding, like filming a wedding, I didn't know how to do that before I actually took on the job, and then I had to learn it very quickly. And then obviously, I did well with it, but if I did know what was all that was involved in it, I probably wouldn't even got started in the first place.
Exactly. No, and Curtis, are you telling me it's not just point and shoot? Is it not? Don't you just point the thing? Do you know,
That's what I initially thought, but no, not at all.
That's what Uncle Fred does with his camera, and then they have to pay for another wedding to get a decent video.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Sorry, go ahead.
There's a beautiful thing in what you just said,
Yeah.
and I was reminiscing and thinking back about my younger years and doing, you know, thinking about yourself, and when you have a naive optimism, you feel like you can do anything, and sometimes if that optimism and that naivety, just curiosity, just gets knocked out of you somewhere, or something hits you, and you're like, oh, I can't do this again, and it's going from failure to failure to succeed, right? And I think that naive optimism is quite beautiful to have, and if you can encase that more and more, and I have that. I go into different sectors with different startups, right? It's like going from one sector to another sector, but it's that naive optimism to bring something new to another sector, to disrupt it, to understand it, because it's all about people, but it's fun and naivety. And when you just talk to people who are experts, and don't go there, it's not going to work, right?
Yeah,
so that
exactly.
naive optimism.
I mean, Curtis refers to fake it till you make it, but I personally, I don't like that. I like the, yes, I can do it, learn it, close the gap, and then do it.
But we say it in a different way, because I agree with that. But it's like
Okay.
fake it till you make it, but close the gap as soon as possible before you actually have to do the thing. So you're not faking it when you're doing it, but just maybe when you're taking that opportunity.
Yeah. I have another thought about when enough is enough. When you're not having fun anymore.
Yeah, that's got to be for sure. Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
that's important. The other side is when you're overlooking the other parts of your life. And you know, there's one simple way of breaking it down is like health, wealth, relationships, and happiness.
Yeah.
And that's like your mental health or your spirituality is in the last one. And you got to make sure you got success in all areas, right? Not just financially. You know, that's not enough. Or not just, I'm so ripped, and you're just still obsessing about getting fitter and, you know, obsessing more about your food or something. There's a point where it's like, that's enough now.
Yeah, that was fun when we started, and it's not now.
Yeah.
So would you say
for sure.
attack all of those at the same time, like your health and financials, or do them one at a time? Because I find it hard to focus on everything at the same time.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I think you have to an extent, do all of them at the same time. You can't be like, I'm completely going to ignore that one.
Yeah.
You know, going to run my health to crap and just completely ruin all my relationships just so I can... No. But at the same time, you will have one primary focus, but try and keep the other ones under control, try and work on them a bit as well. And I've gone more into things like coaching and stuff like that, where you get the awareness of like, oh, this is where I've not been paying attention to. And self-awareness is a big journey, and that's another big theme. It's like gratitude and self-awareness.
I think
It takes
sometimes
long.
it's getting out at that high as well, because
Yeah.
I mean I competed all around the world with radio control helicopters, and my actual last competitive flight, I won the British Championship. So that was my last
Nice.
flight in competition, and I stood on the podium. I said, right, you guys, you've all got a chance to win it next year, because I'm going to retire from this. And they're like, why would you retire? You know, you're up the top. I said, well, I've won it multiple times. I've been around the world flying. I want another challenge now, and that was
Yeah.
motorsport. So we went into
Nice.
motorsport, and then obviously we retired from that at a reasonable level as well. So I think trying all these different things, which relates earlier to what we say about jobs and also enjoyment, it can become a chore if you don't watch it, particularly when you're on a team. And I think a lot of Olympians get it, don't they? Particularly when they stop or are forced to stop, suddenly they've got a vacuum in their life, you know. And I think if you've always got something to roll onto, I think that's quite nice. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, a lot of people get depressed. You get to the summit and it's like, now what? It's like, what do I do, right? In terms of your point about different elements of your life, I think there was a senior manager in Coca-Cola who talked about juggling balls. And each ball is a different part of your life. You got health, you got wealth, you got relationships and family and so on. And we have to keep juggling those balls. But what we have to make sure is that we don't drop certain balls that just crack and break, which is things like health, for example. But we have to continue juggling those balls. Now, if the ball of job breaks, you can always get another job. But health, family, relationships, they're much harder to replace.
Yeah, put
much
a toll
harder
on your life.
Exactly. So when you're juggling, think about those elements of life to say, actually, the health one and the family one, they're the ones are precious to me. But if I drop one, then it's got to be the job one, because I can always get another job. Or
maybe
get
the
another
job
business.
one's a ball, and then the other ones are eggs, and then those ones will break, and then the job one can bounce.
Or bounce, a different type of ball that can bounce back, because you can. But there's certain things which, when they crack, they're much harder to replace. I mean, you can go there, but then you realise in life, there are things which matter more. My dad's always said it. You know, health is wealth. He's always said it. He's always said it. And I never used to listen to him when I was younger.
No, I
But
agree.
yeah,
100%
you know?
agree. And family is, you know, we always say family is the most important thing. That's what you work towards, is family. And for your family to be a good family, you've got to have the health to enjoy that and be part of that family, haven't you? So, jobs definitely.
So you're going to come personal training with me, aren't you?
I keep threatening to go to a personal trainer.
You say threatening to?
Well, it's a threat. It's a threat on my body. I mean, I did do a workout this morning for the first time in a while. Yeah, on a video and everything for the old skiing, just to make sure we're all trimmed up and
There
that.
you go.
And hopefully we'll have the gym finished soon, so I can do some serious training. That will be like 10 minutes on the bike, won't it? So,
I make an excuse for all the time for that.
Yeah, I am as well.
My wife's like, you know, you'll keep complaining about going to the gym and going to do this, going that. And every morning you wake up and you bump into the Peloton bike. Why don't you just jump on the damn thing for 10 minutes and just do it?
well, I used to go to the gym, and my favourite machine was the vending machine, so it didn't really work very well.
That's great.
It takes a lot of effort for putting the money and taking
It is, yeah, I'll have one of them. Thanks to Ash and Hassan. That's been absolutely brilliant. I always learn something from every guest. And it's one of the joys of having guests on the podcast, that's for sure. And to you guys out there, get this book. It is fantastic. The Unfair Advantage is available everywhere where you buy your book, and on Audible as well. So for guys like me, it's great also.
But I tell you what, I really wanted the black
Well,
one.
so did I.
You know what? We got that for you guys.
Oh, wow.
that wasn't rehearsed at all.
So this is the hardcover version. So it's,
Thank you
it's the
very
same.
much.
If you can't get this, by the way, at home or anything, like it's the same, but it's the hardcover in the UK. So it's kind of limited edition now, in a way. But
You, you haven't even signed
we'll
it.
sign it just now. We've got the pen. We've got the pen ready to sign it for you.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. That's
Yeah.
absolutely awesome.
Thank you very
Amazing.
much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you guys for watching as well. If you did enjoy the episode, make sure to smash that thumbs up button and subscribe for new videos every Friday morning.
So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.
Laters.
See you later.